Namaste. Welcome to another edition of Navimash podcast. So, as you can see from the title that we have put up, uh, can President Trump derail the India-US strategic relationship, the shadow of Pakistan? So, I have with me this uh, a magazine published by the Chanakya Diaries. So, in this magazine, there is a very interesting article which is being published in this article in this magazine. So it actually gives a ringside view of the Indo-US relationships post when President Trump became the president the second time, and how and we are seeing now, correct, a lot of rhetoric statements from the Trump has been given with regard to Operation Sindoor, the India-US trade deal which has happened. So I thought okay, it would be a nice opportunity to actually read this article and also discuss the article with the audience, like what's happening from a ringside view. So there are there's a there is also yeah. So this magazine also constitutes many other things as well, like an article by Mr. General Saeed Atta Hasnain on Kashmir and the long shadow of Israel-Iran war. It also talks about there are other things as well. So primarily we will talk about the article whether the US India relationship. Uh, this is written by Donald Camp of CSIS. Oh, price. The price is 800 rupees. So this is published, I think, half yearly. So every 6 months you get you get this. Let me actually give you the link as well, so you can. I think it's a well-known. Let me. Chanakya Diaries. Oh yes. So here is it. It is available also in Amazon, so you can order this from Amazon as well. Let me give you the show you where you can get it, and also I'll share the link as well for the audience. And also, it will there on the pinned comment in the podcast as well. So yeah, here is it. So this is the latest article, latest issue of the Chanakya Diaries, India's premier magazine on defense, national security, and geopolitics. This is issue 3, winter 2025. So this is edited by Major Gaurav Arya. So if you want, you can get it. Let me post the link as well for the audience. But it has some very interesting articles. Well-known people from the defense fraternity write those articles. I'll going to now start reading the article, and people who want to join us, okay, discuss this, you can come and join. So if you are a member of the channel, then you will be able to come and talk to us as well, discuss the things. So I'll post the link just right now for the members. So if you want to come and talk to us, share your points of view on the Indo-US relationship and the article that we're going to read, feel free to do that. I have pasted the link. Let me put also the thumbnail so that audience can identify which one of these is something. Yeah, yeah. I have posted the link for the members only post. So people who want to discuss and join with us, can go ahead and do it. And I will start reading the articles. I'll give also a bit of information on. Yeah, so I'm going to read. Let me see which one I had actually identified. Yeah, okay, and this is fine. I think. So the article that I will read is going to be turning hyphenation on its head. So uh, pre 2014, right? Pre 2014, the hyphenation India and Pakistan was equated in the same phrase. After 2014, by a very strategic move by the then EM, Mr. Jaishankar and Mr. Modi, they had actually worked very hard to actually dehyphenate India and Pakistan. So India became a separate entity and Pakistan became a separate entity. But pre 2014, India and Pakistan were used in the same sense, like they were equated as equals. So here, right now, when Pakistan and US is again found a newfound zeal to actually renew the relationships, and how this affects India, whether with the Indian strategic partnership which was established long time ago, and I think George W. Bush Jr. When they signed the nuclear deal with the US, that was a very pivotal point in that aspect as well. So from that onwards, the relationship between US and India has grown. But with Operation Sindoor and a lot of geopolitics happening around the world, including American forces invading and kidnapping the president of Venezuela, it has been in choppy waters across the oceans. So this article is by by Mrs. Tara Kartha. So the article name is Turning Hyphenation on Its Head. The US India Pakistan hyphenation has re emerged after Operation Sindoor as Washington's crisis diplomacy and renewed engagement with Rawalpindi blur distinction between the region's strongest economy and its unstable neighbor. India can favorably tweak this hyphenation only by leveraging economic strength, driving regional connectivity, boosting self sufficiency, and ensuring the US sees it as an indispensable strategic and trade partner. Yes, Bjorn. Yes. So it's a very interesting topic. And also, I got the article, so I thought, okay, let's read it. Never has the India Never has the India Pakistan hyphenation seemed more stark. With the announcement of Sergio Gore as the ambassador to India and special envoy to South and Central Asia, it seems India and Pakistan have been melded together, which was demelded by. Hmm, okay. Hmm. No, keep this long. Keep this long. Uh, it seems India and Pakistan have been melded together, which was unmelded by the foreign policy initiatives 2014. Yes. Ah, okay, okay, fine. It is that too with a bunch of other countries. Most commentators in India are seeing as as another instance of Trump's heavy-handed dealing, while a few see it as an opportunity to deal with the president's inner circle. Preceding this was a series of events that greatly troubled Indians, as it seemed the US president was determined to club India with its unstable neighbor, the one slated to be the third largest economy soon, while the other slides deeper into debt. But the truth, as always, lies somewhere in between. Pahalgam and the hyphenation success. The hyphenation debate was inevitable given Pahalgam and the ensuing Operation Sindoor. Even a bare, yes, Munshi, you have something to say.
Oh, nothing, nothing. I just joined in. I'm just like trying to see what you're doing.
Okay. No. If you have something to say, just go ahead. I'm just going to read it, but let's see your opinion.
I mean,
What you
on
see?
what do I
I
see?
mean, the way Trump is behaving with South America, because you are in very near to the continent.
Yeah, so it's like everybody. Uh, there's two ways to look at it, right? One is Trump is unilaterally kidnapping a head of government, which is crazy. It's crazy, right? I mean, can you imagine kidnapping a head of government anywhere? Like the Trump just did it, right? So there is going to
They were
be
they were doing this covertly. Now they are doing it overtly.
no. I'll put it this way, right? Like the U.S. has done these kinds of like what do you call that? What the Americans would call as decapitation strikes, because you're basically like cutting off the leadership of a particular country. Um, but it always had a good uh, legal justification and strategic justification, right? So the previous time the U.S. did it was under was Panama with Manuel Ortega, right? And Noriega, sorry, not Ortega. And at that time, like at least with the case of Noriega, right? He was doing some ridiculously bad stuff. He was holding up the Panama Canal. He actually even fired at U.S. personnel that was stationed there to guard the canal. And so that gave the Americans a lot of justification to do what they needed to do back in the 80s, was basically like fly in. It was kind of hilarious if you lived in that era. Was basically the Marines flew in and they had huge loudspeakers and they placed them right in front of Manuel Noriega's office. Like he was in his office, and they blasted like music at him all day, all night, and then he just simply surrendered. Right. So that's how the U.S. did it. But when it comes to what the Americans did with Maduro, that's like taking it completely up a notch. There's no the judicial justification was very flimsy. The strategic justification was even more flimsy. There was no what you would call as caucus belly, right? Or rather, reason to engage in war,
Hmm.
or justification for war, or justification for any kind of operation. He just simply did it at the whims of the president. So it's it's unprecedented in quite several ways. But when it comes to Western reactions, it's expected. Like uh, European leaders basically said, "Oh, we're looking into legality, but Maduro is a bad guy," right? Like it's like they've completely capitulated. Like whereas they were lecturing the rest of the world about like rule of law, international law, what Putin's doing is bad. Here they're unable to even like show some spine, right? I think I find that quite interesting because the next thing that Trump um, actually said after he got Maduro was basically Greenland, Greenland, Greenland. So it's Trump going to capture Greenland? Are Europeans basically going to be like, we're still examining, monitoring the situation, examining the legality of it? Or are they going to show a spine? So it's there's going to be second, third, fourth order effects of this, and none of it is going to be in the favor of anybody in the West. That's my take, actually.
Yeah, but see, US is a declining power. Right? We all know that US is going to decline. China is already is a world power. India will be there pretty soon. So we are practically living in a multipolar world. So in a multipolar world, the natural reaction is to shore up your neighborhood. So China is going to shore up its neighborhood, Russia is going to shore up its neighborhood, India is going to shore up their neighborhood, and US is going to shore up their neighborhood, the Atlantic, uh, a South American continent, right? And North America. They're going to shore up. So this is something which is naturally going to happen. Yeah, Trump doing this in this way looks pretty odd, but this is what it ought to happen in a multipolar world. That's how things work.
No, I
What would
mean,
you
what
think?
I mean, see, just because we live in a multipolar world, it doesn't mean that you could just uh, initiate a military action at the whims of your mood in the morning, right? That's still ridiculous, even if there's a multipolar world. Like if you go back
Do you
to
think?
even
Do you think why they are doing it now at this specific moment?
I
My
mean, there's no reason. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
There is a reason. There is a reason.
Uh,
There is
like
a reason.
the
There is a
the
the reason is simple. Uh, America is a declining power, so they have a specific window where they can actually exercise whatever power they hold. The more they wait, the more they are going to get the window shortage, and less they can do.
I
So
sort of disagree. I mean, that's an inference. That's
yeah,
an
yeah.
inference you're making, right? But
Go ahead, go ahead.
that's an inference we are making. But
Mhm.
the thing with uh, um, the thing is that it is really not like that, right? Like the Americans basically say that we sh like internally, if you look at the debates within the US, they probably say that this is okay, we got rid of Maduro, but I don't think this is a wise operation either way, right? So the internal debate doesn't make it seem like, oh, they're acting because it's a declining power or anything like that.
Yes, so that is my inference that for America, the window where they can actually shore up their neighborhood is shrinking and shrinking. So if they do not exercise whatever power they have right now, which they hold, and they're going to miss the bus. They don't want to miss the bus. And you
No,
also,
I still I'm not a I still don't see it that way, right? Like I mean in the sense like let's put it this way. The US is still a preeminent economic and military power, right? Like
yeah,
China is close. China doesn't have the military power projection capability, right? Uh, at best, China can hold the US back in South China Sea, right? So it still can't project outwards. This is, and after each and every action the US takes, this becomes much more evident, right? Even Russia is able to project power outwards, like outside its own borders, but China is not able to do that. So,
I'll hold you there. So
hmm.
the US military power is primarily because of its economic might, the dollar.
Um, no, because they have consistently um, poured money into their military, right? Now, that doesn't mean the US hasn't made mistakes. I think,
No, no,
especially right
they will make
now,
mistakes. I am What I am saying is that US is a military power, is an outcome of their economic might and the dollar as a reserve currency?
Uh, well, not really. It's more to do with their treaty and alliance agreements, right? So um, the American alliance networks gives the U.S. military a kind of scale that no other power has, right?
Hmm.
So
How
uh, how so?
how do
Let
you
me.
how do you finance 800 military bases without the dollar being the reserve currency?
Oh, you get other countries to do it, right? So South Korea, Japan, they pay for their for U.S. military presence there. It's not a small chunk of money that they're paying for, right? So some of the operational costs have been taken up by the alliance network itself. The US has to do a lot more heavy lifting in other domains, but the base costs and everything else is already taken care of by treaty and alliance obligations. So, and US allies does provide US a certain amount of scale, right? So, for example, um, take the American nuclear weapons arsenal, right? It's like about 2,000 or something like that. For a country like America, that's way too many nuclear weapons. If you only look at the US in isolation, but if you consider, say, how the US extends its nuclear umbrella, it's actually like it makes sense. It makes sense to have 2,000 nuclear weapons because the US has to use its stockpile, a portion of its stockpile, to protect North Korea, protect Japan, to protect, say, Germany. If each of these countries were had their own nuclear stockpiles, they'd be sitting around 400 nukes each, right? But the US actually absorbs that for them, but it also gives them a cost advantage, right? Because now uh, it becomes much more cheaper to run their nuclear weapons program. So, in some sense, you could basically say is the alliance network gives them the scale that they need, right? Like a US that was solely focused on just US security would probably find a 300 ship navy quite unaffordable, right? It would end up like the UK. So the the US alliance system actually does help it provide US military a lot of scale. China doesn't have that. India has an opportunity to build that kind of system. Uh, and as long as the US keeps abusing its alliance networks, its uh, path to relative decline is actually set in stone. Right? See, this is all relative either way. Uh, in the sense that um, you can't the US advantage in, say, naval ships, aircraft, satellite infrastructure, military infrastructure in general, is not going away anywhere, right? Not for 15 years, not for 20 years, at least.
No, no. See, that's what I'm saying. That in a multipolar world, correct? Uh, US is going to shore up its neighborhood so that and they need to do it now because now there would not like if US had done this, let's say 10 years after, let's say right now is 2026, in 2036 US had done this. Yes, US would not be able to do this because first of all, the dollar as a reserve currency would have declined drastically, so it will not have that draw that power. And second is that because it already would have been a multipolar world, so there will be too many things at stake for US to do this. So whatever
Um,
shenanigans that US wants to do, they will do it now because the time window is that's my inference. So like you can disagree with me, that's absolutely fine.
I don't think so, right? I mean, it's like the US has, in this particular region, the US has always had a history. Going
Hmm,
back
hmm,
to
hmm.
before the dollar was even a reserve currency. So,
Yeah, hmm, hmm, hmm.
the term banana republic was coined at a time when the US was not even a reserve currency. It was it was not even considered a major power, right?
Mm.
So no matter even if you take away the reserve currency status of the U.S., they would still be able to have exercise some level of dominance in the entire region, just given its size. So I'm not, uh, and this is why I don't buy that reserve currency uh,
Yeah,
argument.
because if
But
okay, I will
how?
add Rishabh into this. I will add
Hmm.
Rishabh. Rishabh, you have something to say.
Yeah, sure, sure. If Shastri Munshidada needs to finish his point, I can jump in after that. Huh?
Okay, I mean, I can buy the opportunity argument. Oh yeah, there's
Mm.
some vacuum there. This is the opportunity to do it. Sure, but I don't. Um, in when I what I'm trying to say is that I don't think the Americans have thought this through. Right? Typically, when they try to come up with when the Americans try to be more opportunistic, uh, they tend to think at least a little bit, a couple of steps ahead, right? I mean, even in case of say Iraq and Afghanistan, they at least had a plan. It didn't work. That's a different issue. But they at least thought things through a little bit further than just like, oh, we'll just invade, we'll decapitate, and then we'll move away, right? So that's the huge difference here.
So
Okay,
okay, so why they
so
are doing this? Yeah, yeah. So before you come, so just for the
mhm.
also for the audience to actually ponder over why the US establishment. I'm not talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not establishment. I'm talking about State Department. I'm talking about Defense, DoD. Why these two, State Department and DoD, are unable to actually rein in a non-establishment guy? Go ahead, Resham.
Yeah, thanks, Dada. I don't think uh, they were not aligned with Donald Trump on this particular thing. The way that this entire operation was carried out. I mean, it's not they weren't picking up an Osama bin Laden non-stick actor over here. It was the president of that country. It is very hard to think about a scenario where either A, there was some sort of a deal done with Maduro himself, or B, there was a deal done with quite a few people very senior in the country who wanted to get Venezuelan oil back into the global markets. I mean, people forget that Venezuela has been going through an unbelievable economic crisis, hyperinflation, a lot of problems as well. So,
Rishabh,
um,
Rishabh,
mhm,
just I'll add one specific data that will help actually understand the topic more. Venezuela
mhm,
was selling its oil to China on yuan, the Chinese currency, not on USD.
yeah.
So keep that data in mind and then go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It was not, but because it was not being allowed to. I mean, let's have no qualms about the fact. And I agree with what Shastrita is saying over here that there's a reason why the US dollar was made the reserve currency of the world. And by the way, that happened before the petrodollar agreement. It's because of the US's ability to trade with multiple countries. And if given the option, anyone would choose the dollar over the yuan. Everyone who's trading in the yuan, by and large, is doing so at least partially out of necessity, not out of choice. And there is a lot of money to be made by the on the Venezuelan side by selling oil in the international dollar market, or rather the international Western markets. What is interesting to me right now is why did the US need to do this? They could have done this a decade ago. Why did they do this today? It it is almost like how do I phrase this? It's almost like they need that Venezuelan oil to come back into their fold and for them to have some sort of control over it. What is the reason for that? Why is the Middle Eastern petrodollar agreements not enough anymore? Which is something also that people should think about. It's a very interesting time. And of course, Monroe Doctrine and all of that is fine, but like, then why haven't they tried anything with Cuba since the Bay of Pigs thing? Okay, Cuba is a separate case. It's a very interesting thing. Like after Bay of Pigs, they also did not try to, if they were not aligned with the US, sure, but they were not trying to align too much with an enemy of the US beyond a point as well. But be that as it may, uh, I think it has far. One thing I agree with, that this is a sign of US economic decline. It's a act of desperation, because you take out your sticks when the carrots stop working. And this is exactly what has happened over here. It is a signal, but it is also a sign of a society that is really trying to keep its primacy amongst, its prima inter pares situation, by any means necessary. And it's definitely going to now be a darker chapter in the next decade or so, of the global story, now that the floodgates have been opened by the global policeman, which is not a good sign for any country, be it a friend of the US, an enemy of the US, or the US itself. I mean, as unlikely as it may sound, what happens if tomorrow China tries something like this with Taiwan? I mean, I'm sure that question has crossed everyone's minds. The floodgates for that have been opened now. This was
Uh,
not a Gaddafi like character.
well,
But
I
Shastri,
again, I disagree in a lot of different ways, right? I mean, it's attractive to adopt a more speculative lens, but like looking at this administration up close, the explanation is rather simpler. Uh, but
Mhm,
let me come to that a little bit later, right? So, on the China side, I don't think this impacts anything to do with China and Taiwan. China specifically made the argument saying that international law does not apply to Taiwan. Taiwan is primarily a domestic issue. So, if you think that unilateral action in Venezuela is going to be is going to provide more caucus belly to China. I think you're mistaken there. They don't see that in that manner at all. Like um, China for decades has basically claimed that Taiwan is an internal issue.
mhm,
So I don't think that argument holds true. The other thing is, I think, um, is is one is institutional um opportunism, right? So
mhm,
Venezuela has always been sort of like a U.S. national security pawn, right? Like it has always been in their sort of like fantasy within U.S. NACSEC circles to do something about Venezuela, to do something about Latin America, right? Now you have
mhm.
a president that's kind of more uh, giving it a little bit more year, right? Is willing to do something about it, and the institutional hawks are just coming out of the woodwork and basically saying, "Hey, Mr. President, why don't we do this? Mr. President, why don't we do that?" And Trump being
Mhm.
Trump, uh, and him being very impulsive, just says, "Yes, let's do this, let's do that." So. Uh, it has more to do with that than this is some kind of like grand speculative messaging and philosophy and all that. Like these guys, um, I would say they are very poor operators of the US government.
So,
yeah,
Munshida, one question, and sorry that I'll just ask this, and
go ahead.
point well taken. With this administration, that could be very well true. But on that, two questions actually. Number one, since you're in that part of the world, number one, uh, do has there been any, because there has been a lot of speculation in India that there was some sort of an internal collaborator within Venezuela, pretty high placed. And the second is, are they thinking in terms of maybe a reverse, domino effect in Latin America, starting with Venezuela? Maybe if Venezuela falls, maybe they can pressure Brazil, and maybe Colombia and other Latin American, South American countries into becoming more pro US?
No, I think it will achieve the exact opposite, right? Like if you
Of
put in
course.
a little bit of thought. See, uh, the issue is not whether Maduro's good or bad. I think you will find people who would agree with the US characterization of Maduro just being a terrible, terrible leader, right? I
Hmm.
don't think there's any dispute in that. But I think people in Latin America and Central America would take very deep offense at the manner in which it was done, conducted. This is
Hmm.
not your typical regime change operation where the Americans typically have would bake in layers and layers of plausible deniability,
Hmm.
right? So this is just
Yeah, it
like,
wasn't exactly a Bangladesh. True.
yeah, or even Nepal, right? So,
Hmm.
or any other country for that matter. Uh, this is very brazen. Uh, like it's like US being extrajudicial, uh,
Hmm.
and a return to Soviet era uh, uh, what do you call that? Is it, sorry, return to
Cold War era politics. Yeah.
Cold War era politics, which neither of these countries, neither of these regions actually appreciates. So
Hmm.
uh, I think the backlash is going to be severe, but it won't be evident immediately. It will take its time. Uh, it will definitely take its time.
Yeah. So,
So,
do you think there would be any US aid flowing to Venezuela very soon?
mm,
Hmm? Shastri?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, right? Um, this was so impulsive. It's very evident that the Americans have not thought through, right? Beyond just like, oh, let's just go
No,
capture Maduro and treat him like
no,
a criminal. This is
no,
just
no, no, no.
Trump.
Wait. Oh, no, no, wait, wait. See, the thing is that from the perspective of establishment, correct? They will always have the plan B, A, B, C ready just to be implemented. They just need the not a president to go ahead and do it. Correct. Like whatever happened, correct. There, but like every country will be doing this. Every agency will be doing this. They will have their own assets there to be activated whenever there is a requirement. So these would have been, and correct, it's happening for 6 months. If I remember, 6 months ago, Trump said that okay, we are going to do something about Venezuela because they are doing some illegal things in the sea. So we see their oil shipments being captured. Uh, so that's what's happening. So this was already in the pipeline 6 months ago. It is not something which they have. Yeah, they have the way they have executed it. That may be a little bit here and there, but it is was bound to happen the way things are moving 6 months ago.
No, I mean, bound to happen, yes, but this brazenly, I think like there was no thought put into it, is what I'm trying to say, right? Uh,
So okay,
just
if
look at 48 hours later, like 48 hours later, um, what has the US achieved beyond just capturing Maduro?
no, no, I am saying what was U.S. establishment doing about it, because we know, correct, Trump is not part of the establishment, correct. So or it would not happen. So what was the compulsion for the establishment to actually comply with Trump, with
Oh,
State
there was no
Department and
comp
DOD?
that's what I'm trying to say. There was no compulsion, right? Trump, uh, to some extent, for people within the national security apparatus. I see. At the end of the day, in the Western world, it's all a list of grudges, right? Why do they want to get rid of Putin? Because they have a grudge with him. Why do they want to get rid of Maduro? Because they have a grudge with him, right? Uh, the national security apparatus also has similar kind of grudge. grudge keeping, I would keep it, right? So they found a president that's receptive to, striking off one of the grudges. They presented him with the opportunity to do exactly that. Right?
Mhm.
So it's not some kind of grand ideology or some kind of like, oh, let us control the world kind of conspiracy or something to do with petrodollars or something like that. See, all of those things are actually secondary. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's just that nobody in DC loved Maduro. They found Trump to be receptive to getting rid of Maduro, and they went with, right? They goaded him into doing that, right? So whether they goaded him or Trump was collaborative, I think that's speculation, but we can see the results either which way. Uh, I I
Okay,
there,
I
there-
I agree with a lot of your points. I just want to just as a clarification, one point. I'm not saying that there's some sort of a grand design behind it. I my intent was to say that it's more of a situation that needed an that needed something to happen for the pressure to be released a little bit in within America itself, because as of late, even though the United States military, by far, even if you put China and Russia combined in the picture, by far they are the most powerful in the world. But they have become a bit overextended, and they are finding it difficult to manage their finances. Sure, they have the entire cheat code of the US dollar being the reserve currency of the world and the whole economics behind it. But uh, what I'm what I was trying to convey here was that they have started to feel a level of strain in their own perceived superiority over the world. Also, they have started to feel a very real world strain in the average productivity, economic output of the country of the average citizen, and as a result of that, when empires start becoming insecure, they start lashing out at people near and far. And this is an example of that. It is a sign of a crack in the wall, in my opinion, in my very humble and limited opinion. It is a sign of the crack in the wall from a societal perspective. But having said that, I don't think that the US is going to collapse in the next 50 years or anything like that. But yeah, of course, yeah, I think it's a sign of a society that is becoming a little bit more insecure than it was maybe 10, 12 years ago. But also, it has the power to do something about it. So it did.
Okay, okay. So let's now rephrase the question because you guys are here. So with this Maduro incident, what do you think the future of Indo-US relations look like strategically in the long run? How much damage it has done, and in the short term, what can happen?
See, one thing that is very frankly, I don't think it will have any effect on us. We don't have beyond the point any interest over there. There's a lot of talk about dark fleets and Venezuelan oil and this and that. I don't think India deals with it too much, and if it stops, it stops. Honestly, Indo-US relations are very important. I don't think, are going to concern ourselves with what's happening in that part of the world. Uh, of course, it will globally make every country a little bit more uneasy in their dealings with the US. Temporarily, it will give US a little bit of a bossy stature again that it felt it was losing. But India is not Venezuela. Everyone, I've been
No, no, no,
seeing
no.
videos on Jaipur dialogues. Hmm.
No, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the short term or in the midterm on the long term, correct? So there, as I mentioned in the start of the program, with George W. Bush Jr. coming into as a president, correct? And when the nuclear deal was signed between US and India, that ushered a new strategic level cooperation between India and USA over a long term, and that strategic level cooperation has grown and grown. Correct. The trade has grown, the
Yeah.
cooperation have grown. India has some military equipment from USA, correct? We export a lot of our services to USA. So
Mm,
with this specific incident where US is willing to do un, unethical and illegal things by showing middle finger to the law and order and other things, correct? In
mm.
that context, how the relationship is going to be looked at from Indian perspective, because we are looking at a free trade deal with USA, and that's very important part of the economic agenda of the Modi government.
See, as far as India is concerned, right, I don't think this fundamentally changes any kind of strategic, tactical, or even
I
operational
agree.
equations, right? So, uh, let's look at it from an Indian interest perspective. What US action might actually do is this is all just second order impact, not first order impacts. So the result of the US action in Venezuela would probably result in stronger opportunities for India to pursue uh, uh, multipolar opportunities, right? So how Brazil and India might actually seek closer ties. There's been rumors about Brasilia considering um, uh, acquiring nuclear weapons, right? So if you're going to do that, you need to ensure that you have some support from current nuclear powers outside the US. So from that perspective, you might see second order opportunities for India to basically take advantage of. Uh, it's the same thing. If you went back, say, 6 months or a year ago, you had Maduro threatening Guyana, which is a state with
Mm-hmm.
a significant amount of Indian population, people of Indian origin over there, with an invasion, right? So there is Indian interest in that state as well, right? We are investing heavily in that state's oil resources. We are trying to invest heavily in that state culturally, from a cultural perspective, from a strategy perspective, from a resource and trade perspective. So those
Just for
those
some
interests.
context over here, just for some context and backing up your point, I think it was last year that India bought exploration rights for a massive chunk of Guyana's estimated oil reserves.
Yes, that deal was done through a consortium of Guyanese
Hmm.
state interests, ExxonMobil and ONGC Videsh, right? So
Yeah,
that interest is now secure. Now it can expand on that even further. Right. There's a lot of opportunities in that perspective. Now, what does it mean for US-India relations? I don't think it means much. When Trump insisted that he brokered peace between India and Pakistan, the trust was completely destroyed at that moment itself, right? And this kind of decapitation strike is not going to rebuild that trust either which way. From a PMO perspective, I think the first thing they would have basically asked the CDS is that can we protect against similar US unilateral actions against our country? And the answer would have been yes, absolutely yes, right? Uh, I think this would be a uh, I mean, the NatSec establishment in India always gets lots of wake up calls. This would be another series of wake up calls for them, right? So there'll be a little bit of strategic rebalancing here and there. But fundamentally, when it comes to the direction of the relationship, it's not going bad, it's not going good. It's just where it is and
where
where
it
it
is.
needs
Yeah.
to be.
Okay.
Okay, let me ask.
A couple of
Okay,
points here. Mhm.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I will ask next question. Go ahead.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. So 2 points here. Number one, some historical context. Right about, I think the U.S. nuclear agreement was signed in 2009 or 10, and around the same time, the Arab Spring was also kicking off. We are very, mercenary in our foreign policy that way, that we look out for our interests. Baaki duniya jaye bhad mein, we don't care. Which I completely 100% agree with. Kudos to the Congress and kudos to the BJP for maintaining that. I don't think there will be any different, any major change in the trajectory of US India relations. Even back then, the US was pursuing closer relations with India as a counterbalance to China. That will remain true for today. Even back then, Pakistan was being used as a counterbalance to India. And nothing will really change. On a global level, yeah, I think, trust has been broken. It was not just with India, trust with all the tariffs and all of the loose comments and everything that's been coming in for the past few years, trust was gone. This was, that's why there was a lot of outrage, but not a lot of, oh, this was unbelievable. No, that was not the coverage that you were getting. You were like, oh my God, what has he done now? So things will not change. Now there are, personalities on leadership, and then there are entire institutions, and the US bureaucracy is massive. Our relationship with the US primarily work on a bureaucratic level, and that will not really change too much. The trajectory will be what it is. From India's perspective, you know, a China and a Russia, which are a little bit thrown off balance by what happened, which are a little bit more, unsure, is good for India because then, Russia gets some leverage over China, and China wants to get closer to India, maybe to counterbalance a little bit against the US. So we will get some opportunities there. We will get a lot of opportunities in Africa, where we are already expanding our ties, and governments will be more keen to look out for partnerships over there, economic opportunities over there. Latin America, yeah, sure, we could have something here or there, but by and large, Indian diplomacy in Latin America has not been very great. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Maybe things change, maybe don't. I don't know. We also need to recognize, that we are at the end of the day, we may be bigger than Japan, but huge chunk of our economy goes in, our own people's pockets, not in soft banks' pockets like Japan. So, how much of that translates into a global outreach is yet to be seen. And, anyways, that is a more of a medium to long term thing. People forget we've just become a $4 trillion economy. Japan has been a $4 trillion economy for probably decades now. So it's not just that you've reached that level. It's also the depth of the impact that you can have at that level. If you're earning say 10 lakhs a year and you've just started earning it. Sorry, your pockets will not be as deep as someone who's been earning 10 lakhs for the past 20 years. You may exceed that person's income in the next 15 years, but that person, or maybe next 5 years, but that person's bank balance is still going to be much deeper than yours. So we still need to build all of that up. We have a long way to go. It will probably be beneficial for us in the Asia Pacific, Indo Pacific context, in a little bit of the East African coast context. But beyond that, it will be business as usual in our end of the world. Acha, Dada, I have to drop off for a bit. I will be back, but great discussion. Hope it keeps going. See you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, Munshi, just one more thing. With the kind of engagement that Venezuela and Venezuela especially and South American countries had with China for a long time, and now US with this action is saying to Chinese, okay, this is my backyard, just move away. Is that a message to Chinese activities in the South American continent?
The Americans can try to give whatever message they want, right? It's still up to Beijing. Still exercises a level of agency. Every major power exercises a level of agency. Uh, what message is Beijing going to accept is the question. It's not at the end of the day. Is it going to deter Beijing from establishing more economic ties in the region? I doubt that. I certainly doubt that. Is it going to deter Beijing from pursuing strategic interests in the region? I also
No,
doubt that.
I would, I okay. Let me add one caveat here. So when the US is saying to Beijing, see, US would have told China that okay, in their diplomatic engagements, that this is my backyard. You do not make too many inroads here. We will take care of this.
I mean, the
What I'm
president himself made that public, right? When he basically said, "This is our backyard," right? So I think the message is out and clear. I- Is
Mhm.
it going to achieve any kind of deterrent effect with China or any other major power? I certainly doubt. I certainly
What
doubt
I
that.
wanted to what I wanted to ask is like, or take your opinion is, I am specifically like thinking into the weapon sales which China was doing with these countries. That may have, like, because correct, that is that changes the strategic balance. Economic things, okay, still you can manage it. Once the Chinese weapons start flowing into the South American continent, then it changes the overall strategic balance of the region. So maybe US is telling, I had enough. This is what I will do. Keep away, as a kind of
Uh,
showing a middle finger.
I mean, it's still early days, so I don't think Chinese weapon sales have even tilted the balance against the Americans in any shape, way, or form, either which way. Uh, in South America, their preferred weapon supplier are Europeans, not Chinese, and it hasn't changed dramatically. Um, I which I think that presents a very interesting perspective, right? Is it going to deter China? Probably not. Um, is it going to make the Americans a more hegemonic power in the region? I have my doubts, right? But hegemony is also something that you see in hindsight, so you can't predict whether your current actions will lead to hegemonic consequences, to a hegemonic outcome or not. So I still think um, I can certainly definitely with some high degree of confidence definitely say that the US acted very impulsively. They have not thought things through, right? Other powers are not going to do the same thing.
Okay, so let me ask you one more question, because you track a bit of national security issues, national security issues. So, is this incident which has happened with Maduro, is this going to be a kind of a, like a, how would I say, uh, a very significant data point to actually reorient the Indian foreign policy while dealing with America, or is it something already factored in from the back channels?
Um, so I think whatever needs to be factored in has already been factored in May.
Hmm. Yeah, but correct. Like saying I will do something and kidnapping a president of a country. Okay, correct. That's a paradigm shift in terms of the way the posturing works. Correct. You do posturing as a kind of a signaling. Now it has gone from signal to actually implementation and culmination. So
I
that's
mean,
a paradigm shift in terms of the way the foreign policy and diplomacy works.
I think the biggest posturing that you can see is India's investments in more missiles and anti-air systems, right? And it's not coming from Americans; it's coming from Israelis and Russians. So if you want to, but I'll put it this way: did government of India make those purchases specifically because of Venezuela? I don't think so. But can you derive that conclusion from their purchases? Sure, you can. Anybody can. Um, see, come on, man. I think whatever calculus that New Delhi or whatever posturing that New Delhi calculus that New Delhi needs to make with respect to Venezuela has already been done in May, post Operation Sindoor, right? I would have probably said they would have factored everything in by August.
Hmm.
So there is not, you don't need to change.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, government of India doesn't need to change anything too much. It's more like, okay, what is the risk of US engaging in a similar decapitation strike in India? Very low.
Yeah, that is something which is like, that is not like, even with India, if they wanted, they can't do it because India is a nuclear power. So that's a deterrent which works. Correct. It has worked because North Korea, they can't go and bomb North Korea. They could have bombed it for 30 years. They did not do it because North Korea has weapons, nuclear weapons. So that is out of the question. Correct. That's already proven that it works. The deterrent actually works. So nobody is thinking in those lines. What people are thinking is that, uh, in terms of diplomacy, in terms of trade, in terms of tariff, okay, in terms of politics, geopolitics, which is going to be done, okay, next 3, 3, 4, 5 years. How this incident is going to impact those activities in an adverse manner, or in a, maybe in a neutral manner.
Mm, I don't think it's going to change much. Uh, I think if at all anything else, it just opens up more opportunities for India. I'm pretty sure MEA must, if they're not pursuing these opportunities, then they're doing a big mistake, right? Like, seriously, like the US is opening up opportunities. Uh, we just don't have the right analysts looking at those opportunities and presenting them to government of India. Like this is the argument that I keep making from time to time. Any analyst from any Indian think tank uh, has rarely made an argument saying that, hey, these actions open up opportunities in XYZ places. These are things that government of India should consider pursuing. These are leads government of India should consider pursuing. Uh, I think it would be wise for more analysts to start specializing in their region and start pursuing those leads and presenting those opportunities to government of India.
Hmm. Interesting perspective. Okay, do you have anything else
Like,
to
I
say?
mean, for example, right, like I'd rather have, you can't do much with a mercurial president like Trump. Uh, you can't do much with him. He's found something. He's like a rabid dog, right? So he's found something to latch onto. He's going to keep latching onto that unless you beat him up real bad. And this is not the time to do that. Uh, there's a particular place for it.
Do you think the silent treatment given by the Indian foreign policy establishment is actually the right kind of approach at this moment?
Yes, it is. It is. Don't engage with them. Uh, engage with this. I mean, whatever you need to do at a bilateral basis, do it. But you don't need top political leadership to engage in it. Like, see, um, diplomacy is all about reciprocity, right? Now, if Trump is not willing to show even some basic reciprocity in norms, there's no point engaging with him politically on any issue.
Hmm, got it. But correct, there are a lot of, maybe say, reactive forces who are saying that something needs to be done. This dog needs to be reined in.
Hmm?
Like, a lot of people are saying there has to be some reaction from the Indian side, whether
No,
diplomatically or otherwise.
no reaction is also a reaction.
We are talking in very scientific methods, which people don't understand.
नहीं,
Not a.
शांतिपूर्वक से कुछ न करना भी कर्म ही है.
Mm,
कुत्ता
good.
कुत्ता रास्ते में भौंक रहा है तो भौंकने दो.
Mm,
So I mean, it's
no.
like, see, no reaction is also a good reaction. ऐसा हर चीज पे दखल अंदाज करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
Mm. Yeah, but people see, correct, people see as a kind of a weak or a soft state. It gives a soft state impressions
कुछ भी
to lot of people.
ना, ना ना ना. तो आई मीन एक तो दो चीज है. खुद की औकात देखो. राइट, तू क्या करने वाला है तू? आर यू गोइंग टू सेंड आईएनएस विक्रांत ऑल द वे ओवर टू वेनेजुएला? नो, यू आर नॉट. राइट, लाइक तू कौन सा फ्रिगेट तू भेजने, तू कौन सा जहाज तू भेजने वाला है भारत से? राइट, और किस लिए, किस बेनिफिट के लिए? आई मीन थोड़ा दिमाग लगाओ. देख, एक एक दूसरा आदमी दखल अंदाज करने की कोशिश कर रहा है तो करने दो. तो उसको, उसका फायदा तुझे मिल रहा है तो चुपचाप ले लो. राइट, आई मीन दिस द थिंग यू लाइक. Okay, fine. Let me look at it from another perspective, right? दखल अंदाज करना है तो क्यों करना है दखल अंदाज, वो बताओ पहले.
To actually, if I take that from that perspective, to actually tell, give a message to your own population, own voting bloc, and also send a message to the other nations that India is not a soft power. It can actually like give a retort to whatever you are saying.
Ah, I mean, it's like क्या
See,
कौन
I
मानने
will
मानने
wait,
कौन
wait,
वाला है? I mean, see, in the sense like,
wait, wait, wait. I will tell you. I'll
hold
tell you
on, hold
very.
on. If India's more offensive diplomacy has not gotten 400 bar, you think some kind of military action is going to get you that 400 bar? No, it's kind of stupid to that. Like, uh, let me put it this way: CPIM comes out, CPIM and Congress comes out to protest on the streets about Venezuela. What is the first reaction? आम आदमी का रिएक्शन क्या है? इन लोगों को कोई काम धंधा नहीं है. बाजू में बगल में बांग्लादेश में कुछ हो रहा है, मगर इन लोग रो रहे हैं वेनेजुएला. राइट, सो there's no benefit like from doing any action. And now if you do something with respect to Bangladesh, at least you can say that okay, थोड़ा तो पॉलिटिकल फायदा तो मिल ही रहा है, कम से कम.
That is the
राइट,
case.
चाइना के साथ कुछ करेगा तो डायरेक्ट फायदा किसको हो रहा है? अपने को ही हो रहा है. राइट, पाकिस्तान के साथ कुछ करेगा तो फायदा किसको हो रहा है? अपने साथ ही हो रहा है. वेनेजुएला, वो तो वेनेजुएला जाने के लिए तुझे 30 घंटे का फ्लाइट पकड़ के जाना पड़ता है. 30 घंटा. इट
Hmm.
टेक्स 30 freaking hours to get anywhere close to Venezuela. और महाशय बोल रहे हैं कि हम, हमें कुछ करना चाहिए. अभी ये कुछ फायदा नहीं होने वाला है. शांतिपूर्वक चुपचाप बैठो घर पे.
I think a lot of people are taking cue from the Chinese, correct, wolf warrior diplomacy, where they will Chinese would actually give gali to the UK ambassador on a live TV. So that kind of theatrics people want to see from Indian diplomacy,
वो
maybe.
सी उस दैट यू कांट फोर्स दीज थिंग्स. राइट, उसका भी एक टाइमिंग रहता है. जयशंकर डिडंट गो आउट डूइंग वुल्फ फॉरवर्ड डिप्लोमेसी एवरीवेयर. वो एक समय देख के वो इतना मारा कि even today the Germans are basically, even today the Europeans are basically quoting him. Right, I mean, the first thing you need to understand is there's a timing for everything. तुझे टाइमिंग समझ में ना आता है तो उसका मालूम नहीं, उसका मतलब ये नहीं कि दूसरों को टाइमिंग समझ में नहीं आता है.
Okay, just on the sidetrack, do you think there is there a grudge which Jaishankar has with Germans? He has roasted them too many times to be a coincidence.
No, I mean, it's like, I don't think he has a grudge. I don't think anybody has a grudge. Uh, Uh,
like
so
like uh, to
it's
Germans,
just it's just
to
that
the
the European leadership currently is so stupid that you can't help but throw some shade at them. Like
even correct, Mr. Saran, who is what is his full name? Mr. Saran's full name?
Samir Saran.
Samir, yeah, yeah. So Samir Saran has also taken the Germans to the cleaners multiple times. Like he has insulted them like anything on live debates, like on the which is there on the YouTube.
Like when you're this
They are just
stupid, you can't help it, right? Like it's like और क्या मैं बोलूं मैं? Like he,
Niner bhai, sorry for roasting Germans. Sorry.
yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Like uh, इसे पागल हो गए.
Yeah, so the conclusion is that this Trump theatrics is not going to impact the long-term strategic relationship which India and US has. Yeah, in the short term, there might be some recalibration might happen, but overall, India is untouched because Trump is playing in his own backyard in general. Correct, Munshi?
Yeah, I mean, there's no benefit in India doing anything either way. Like, that's what my serious take is.
Cool. Do you have anything else to say? Like, I will try to read one article and then I have to catch a flight.
Nope, 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 nope. Please proceed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Okay. So I'm going to take a 10-second break. Okay. No, no, no. Anyway, I'll not take a break. Let's finish this article because I have to again catch a flight as well. So let me see where we were. Yeah. Pahalgam. The hyphenation debate was inevitable given Pahalgam and the ensuing Operation Sindhu. Even a bare review of the timeline of events indicates that it was Pakistan's plan all along to escalate tensions, draw in the US, and then cry for mediation. That timeline includes the unusual rant of General Munir to a group of overseas Pakistanis 16th April, where he not only talked about Hindus and Muslims as being entirely different from each other, Kashmir as the jugular vein, and more on that vein, followed a week later by the Pahalgam attack, 22nd April. The dates are quite interesting. Rawalpindi would have known fully well that an Indian response was inevitable. Equally, it is worth noting that after having started the skirmish, which went into overdrive as India hit some 11 bases and radar stations, it announced a meeting of Nuclear Command Authority May 10th, even as it worked the lines with the US. On the 10th, the whole thing ended and the NCA meeting never took place. The May 10th statement by Secretary of State Marco Rubio capped the hyphenation text, with the US publicly announcing that it had brokered an end to the war. This theme has since been echoed by not just President Trump multiple times, but also by the State Department spokespersons who detailed the efforts of US officials in ending the war to the media. Pakistan enthusiastically welcomed the intervention and mediation exercise, which included an invitation to Prime Minister Modi to the White House on the very same day that he expected the Pakistani army chief. In the event, it seems that General Asim Munir invitation went through various channels, but the lunch did happen, the first ever such event of a US president with sitting Pakistani army chief, General Asim Munir, June 18th. The rewards, therefore, were swift. with a return visit to attend a retirement party of the outgoing Central Command Chief General Kurila, who had earlier praised Pakistan in no uncertain terms for counterterrorism cooperation. He was subsequently decorated by President Zardari with the Nishane-Imtiaz or Order of Excellence. The Pakistani Air Force Chief Zahir Ahmed Babar, Zahir Ahmed Babar Sindhi, also visited the US after a hiatus of 10 years. On the surface, it does seem that with Pahalgam, Rawalpindi was able to tick box in its main objectives. The rewards program, the rewards program, India versus Pakistan. Cashing in on Pahalgam was certainly true to General Munir, who has elevated himself to Field Marshal May 21st and later awarded himself the second highest military decoration. But there were other issues of concern that showed that Pakistan had hit the ground running in terms of its historical role as a US proxy. On the ground, the meeting between Secretary Rubio and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar dealt almost entirely with Iran and combating Islamic State. Weeks later, however, was a US-Pakistan counterterrorism dialogue August 16th, which was regressive from any point of view. The joint statement said both delegations underscored the critical importance of developing effective approaches to terrorist threats, including those posed by the Balochistan Liberation Army, BLA, ISIS Khorasan, and Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP), and applauded Pakistan's continued success in containing terrorist entities that pose a threat to the peace and security of the region and the world. It was not just the irony of the praise of an acknowledged terrorist sponsor, it was the naming of the BLA for the very first time that shocked most people. That was a box tick, ticked to entire satisfaction of Pakistan, as was the designation of the Majid Brigade as an ally of BLA, which is not. And though all of this could be linked to subsequent US interest in Balochistan, it could equally be deliberate US ploy to annoy India in another hyphenation exercise. That the US designated the terrorist resistance front. Okay, that's interesting. That the US designated the terrorist resistant front in far greater detail, linking it to the Pahalgam attack, was an instance of Washington also playing to Delhi's interest and its own. Since Lashkar has killed US citizens as well in Mumbai's 26/11 attack. Further was the move by the Financial Action Task Force (FATF) report in July 2025, which for the first time discussed sponsorship of terrorism and funding patterns of groups involved in attacks in Pulwama and others, particularly the Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. Those are far more important groups in Pakistan spreads spreads across financial institutions and also intelligence agencies. The PLA, on the other hand, was designated as a specially designated global terrorist organization in 2019. I don't know what exactly it means, but it looks humdrum name. Specially designated global terrorist organization in 2019, and nothing much has come of it. This time, this time round, however, the US could choose to support Pakistan with valuable technical intelligence. The institutional linkage. Consider then the institutional linkages with India. India and the US have joint working groups in at least 9 areas, quite apart from the pluralities, plurals like Quad meetings. These range from counterterrorism, defense, energy, civil space cooperation, education, and skill development, to innovation and civil space cooperation, along with multifarious other feats that emphasize the institutional ties that carry on quietly alongside the rhetoric. In fact, even as Operation Sindoor ended, the US India Joint Working Group on Aircraft Carrier Technology met under the overall auspices of the DTTI, Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, while in Hawaii, while in Hawaii, conducted a tabletop exercise of the Quad even as the conflict played out. In July, the Quad foreign ministers meetings was held that discussed the range of issues including critical minerals initiative, with the first meeting of the private sector in this respect. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who, while compressing appreciation on the integration of major US systems into Indian armed forces, spoke of several pending deals to be completed and tied that to the later signing of the new 10-year framework for the US India major defense partnership that seemed to be kind of a process driven. Process driven conditionality. The 2 plus 2 intersectional dialogue was rather an unusually held virtually, bookmarking the new defense partnership as well as a range of activities under the US India Compact, catalyzing opportunities for military partnership, accelerated commerce and technology for the 21st century and beyond. Meanwhile, the dates of Quad Summit are yet to be decided given the high decibel noises coming from the US side, which seems to pass for diplomacy. The echo chamber effect, with the US Republican senator wanting to pause on H-1B visa and general public seeing Indians as stealing their jobs, is the downside and it exists that is over amplified on social media, which ignores or is unaware of the strong institutional links. Pakistan's linkages increase sans institutions. Compare this to Pakistan, where working groups (WGs) are primarily to counter terrorism and law enforcement. No other formal working group format can be seen, but Pakistan has in the past and in the present being used to an use as an outreach platforms. The US reach out to China was through Pakistan in the Kissinger years, and today it's not just a reach out to Iran. Witness the visit of President uh, Peshkian recently, but also to Central Asia. Recently, Pakistan hosted the US-led defense conference on Central Asian chiefs in July this year. Then there is the fact that Pakistan is amenable to US using its territory for operations like the decadal operation into Afghanistan even while making money from it. The possibility of using Pakistan as a jump off point for operations into Iran or China remains a distinct possibility. Meanwhile, there is no doubt that relations with Pakistan have increased suddenly in, in state to state interactions. In the latter, the most noticed was the visit of Eric Mayer, senior bureau official of the US Department of State Bureau of South Asia and Central Asian Affairs, who visited April 8 to negotiate a deal on Pakistan's critical minerals sector for US businesses. He was there for a much touted Pakistan Minerals Investment Forum, chaired by the foreign minister and also rather more than unusually by Pakistani Chief Army Staff Munir. The US Charge d'Affaires Natalie Baker followed this up with an offer to Federal Minister of Railways Hanif Abbasi innovative ways to strengthen Pakistan's railways and infrastructure to support the critical mineral sector. In July this year, Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb met with US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and US Trade Representative Ambassador Jameson Greer, which finally led to the trade deal with 15% tariffs. But more importantly, the minister observed the US interest in minerals and mining, artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, and cryptocurrency. Earlier, Pakistan Crypto Council (PCC) partnered with World Liberty Financial (WLF), a decentralized finance platform backed by US President Donald Trump. Pakistani sources quoted a press release from the finance ministry that said a WLF delegation comprising of Zachary Folkman and Chase Hero and Zachary Witkoff, the son of Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff, has signed a landmark letter of intent with the PCC to accelerate blockchain innovation, stablecoin adoption, and decentralized finance integration across Pakistan. All this is quite a bit for a country that was off the map for years. But as of now, it's it isn't much. All that is seen in terms of financial assistance, for which Pakistan still remains in Chinese hands. Is the US is the US 397 million allocation for Pakistan's F-16s, which is a technical package for sustainment of US monitored counterterrorism efforts, who will ensure they are not used against India. Remember that since US aid has been shut down, Pakistan loses some US 845 million in aid, affecting some five key energy projects and other funding funding key to Pakistan's growth. The country has been one of the highest beneficiaries of US aid, consistent as most Pakistanis would say with how the country could position itself as vital to the US. US ambassador's large brief. The apparent ultimate such exercise seemed to be the naming of Sergio Gore as ambassador to India and special envoy to South and Central Asia. As special envoy, he would outrank the ambassador to Pakistan, hmm, who is yet to be appointed. Whether such an appointment will take place at all remains to be seen. If it doesn't, it means that the new ambassador will wield considerable power in the subcontinent. Gore's background as the most powerful man you have never heard of has been detailed elsewhere, but he is said to have covered the said to have coveted walking privilege to the president. Born in Tashkent and credited with responsibility for hiring some 4,000 Trump appointees, here is little doubt of his influence. But he ultimately will have to deal with Congress and Washington bureaucracy. In the latter, the key issue is that he will be presiding over Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs, which oversees US relations with 11 other countries as well. Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Maldives, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. The appointment of an Assistant Secretary of State remains vacant, with S. Paul Kapoor yet to be confirmed. The department is currently presided by a senior official who served as a professional staff member on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence with then Vice Chairman Marco Rubio, and covered issues related to the Indo Pacific region. For a person characterized as knowing everybody by the Washington Post, he will choose an amenable official for the top post for the region. In Central Asia, a US thrust is towards getting its militaries together, as noted above, with Pakistan playing host, but more practically is in access to critical minerals. US interests in Bangladesh are already apparent in terms of a pushback against China. In both areas, there is a Pakistani helping hand. The Indo Pacific role, which is India's primary stake in US foreign policy, though not domestic policy, seem to be on hold for the time being. Beside is the disquieting return to the term Asia Pacific by State Department spokesperson from time to time. Breaking the hyphenation. It is important to acknowledge that India's own social media and media ecosystem firmly hyphenates India and Pakistan, a phenomena that has returned in force after Pahalgam attack. Previously, for years, the media, which takes its cue from the government and bureaucracy, had ignored Pakistan almost entirely. It is necessary for the government to return publicly only to this pattern, even while keeping a sharp eye on Pakistan's many maneuvers, which are multiplying by the day. Second, it is vital to understand US priorities in terms of the region, including in terms of critical minerals, and work towards energizing our own uh, plurilaterals like the Central Asia Forum towards delivering a corridor for access to minerals, and add, add this to the IMAC, India Middle East Europe corridor. This is not just a connectivity route. It seeks to deliver on Middle East stability, a key US priority. An equal eye needs to be kept on the Russian backed INSTC, International North South Transport Corridor, with India's economic growth as the key factor in our international standing. These connectivity routes have to be prioritized equally. Indeed, it's the economy that provides the biggest difference and dehyphenator from Pakistan. One is a basket case while the other offers a huge market, but that works both ways. Pakistan has always traded a rescue of the near collapse for providing services to the US, including possible bases for covert operations, which are anathema to India. India has to protect its market, particularly in terms of agriculture, and therefore will inevitably have problems. Therefore, the key is not to just diversify markets but also to integrate the region with India, outsourcing key industry requirements to neighbors. This requires a clear directive to industry, whose performance has so far been subpar with regard to innovation and R&D. India's gross expenditure on research and development is about 0.64% of GDP, way below the average of major countries like China. That is a key to Atmanirbharta and should also be a driver for engaging and, more importantly, sustaining ties with neighbors. Other countries will be motivated to resist the Pakistani influence only if there is a stake in for them. Conversely, industry ties to these countries will create a leverage that will encourage the US to deal through India rather than through Pakistan. In sum, if India's strength is its economy, then it should be its priority in foreign policy terms to both retain the US as a market and stretch our own benign influence as a preferred trade partner rather than the often mentioned security partner. Security follows in the wake of common interests, not the other way around. To resist and overturn hyphenation way ahead to its prior way ahead to prioritize economy over everything else, including politics. So this ends the article written by Dr. Tara Kartha. She is an author. She has spent 17 years at the National Security Council Secretariat, the apex of India's national security architecture. At the NCCS, she worked on terrorism and other security issues concerning the neighborhood and held special charge of National Security Advisor Board, among other responsibilities. She has authored the book Tools of Terror, Light Weapons and India Security. Pretty interesting article she has written. Good. So, people, if you want to know more about the articles, more about articles here, so you can catch this article, the Chanakya Diaries. Very good quality of magazine, very good authors, good content. Okay, a lot of variety of content is there. So I would encourage people to go and purchase it if you want to. The link is there in the chat itself, so you can check. And also, I will put it there in the podcast as well later as a pinned comment. Anybody else wants to join? Let me just ask. I think there are not too many questions are here. Mm, this is something very interesting. The Shastri has told. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Okay. The link is there in the members only post for people who want to talk to us or discuss the topic. I'll wait for 5 minutes. Till then, I'll check the few comments. I can see there are a lot of comments which has gone, but not related to topic itself. But Munshi's comments are quite interesting. Hmm. Yeah, Minder, Kadi Ninda. I don't know who they are, but they are certainly not good. Uh, okay. Thank you very much for joining. See you again. Maybe we will be again joined with some other podcast. So thank you. We'll see you again tomorrow or day after on another reading session or a podcast session which we have planned. So Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.